Beautiful people at Expediting land, how you doing? You guys, I just want to go over a couple of things that need to be addressed. A reminder for veteran drivers, obviously. I'm sure you guys don't need to be told this. And newcomers, what to remember in these two categories of pay. Layover pay and detention pay. Okay? Detention pay. When you arrive at the shipper or consignee on site, you're ready to get loaded or unloaded. In most cases, the companies will pay detention time after 2 hours of being on site in the dock, where you're loading or getting unloaded. Now, in most cases, you've got to remember it is after 2 hours once you're parked in the dock. All right? Just remember that. When you're back in the dock, 2 hours gone by, picking up for delivery, most companies start detention pay. And it varies with what company you're going with. It could vary from, the average pay is basically between $30 to $60 per hour. All right. Obviously, if you're driving for a private owner, there's a percentage cut on that. Okay, but still, it's worth it. You need to record it. You need to call into dispatch, send a Qualcomm message over. Detention pay starts at such and such time. Whatever your time period frame is, and when your detention pay starts. Because here's what happens. When you're in detention time starting, and bam, 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 and you're on site, and this has happened to a lot of drivers, and they get upset, they get hot, and I understand. That's why you have to make sure that detention pay and layover pay is recorded. Anyhow, I would say after 8 or 9 hours, the average, you're sitting in that dock still. Most layover pay starts if you have a 24-hour time period, including your detention pay now, okay? All right? Your detention pay is strictly for when you are exceeding the time periods of getting loaded and unloaded, paying for your time, parked in that dock. The truck is being held. It's being held by that company because they haven't loaded or unloaded you yet. And you need to remember that. You need to find out your detention pay start times with your company, carrier you drive for, and Expediting. Very important, okay? That's anywhere you go in trucking. Detention pay and labor pay is very important, obviously, because it pays for the time you're not turning those wheels. If you get paid by percentage, it still affects your pay, obviously, whether you're getting paid by cents per mile or percentage pay. But your layover pay, that's the next thing. What usually happens is layover pay, which means you have not parked in the dock yet, but you're on site. You have parked on site, you have arrived on site, but you're not parked in the dock. You are not parked in the company's dock to unload or load you. But you're on site. You arrived on time. Everything's good to go. You checked in. Bam. If a company turns you away, and you have to go to, and it happens to me before. On a Friday, I had to deliver at 7 p.m. I showed up on time, bam, at a Mac plant in Virginia on a 1,000-mile run. And so when I arrived there, they turned me away because they thought, hey, man, it's holidays. I'm going home, enjoying my time. That's fine, too. All right? People out here on the road, we don't get to enjoy our holidays as much. Unless you're with your significant other and everything's hunky-dory. You're flying drones around and having fun. You know what I'm saying? Anyhow, I arrived at 7 p.m. on Friday, and they turned me away, and I was like, oh, that's not cool. I was with Tri-State at the time. You need to keep close tabs to that. Saturday and Sunday I was given a hotel, but I was paid for my layover time quite handsomely. I was paid very well for those 2 days because I showed up at my scheduled time on site. On site, not in the dock, but on site at the security shack. If you get turned away when you're on site for a couple, it happens. It's happening right now with a couple of automotive plants. Layover pay is essential, and it ranges from $150 a day to up to $300 is the average for layover pay per day. Now, there's teams, they split it and what have you in most cases. But again, detention pay and layover pay. Detention pay starts whatever your company's policies are when you back in the dock. You are actually backed in the dock. Alright? It could start 2 hours later. Some of them start 3 hours later. Some of them even start 1 hour. 1, 2, and 3 hour increments before the starting detention pay kicks in. So, and then the layover pay. When you are on site but get turned away. You are on site at the security shack and get turned away, and you have to lay over for a day or two. It happens. It's happening right now in an auto plant at in Carolinas. You've got to make sure that's going to compensate you at least for the time that you're missing load offers, you're not turning the wheels, So you got to remember to record detention pay and layover pay. A lot of companies, decent, good Expedite companies, will automatically have it all set up for you. Layover pay, you're good to go. You don't have to worry about a thing. Hey, they'll usually calculate, if you're a solo, they'll calculate a day's average load pay. If you're team, they'll average the same way. It'll be a little bit more for team, obviously. For layovers. Detention is strictly hourly pay. Again, detention pay is strictly hourly pay. After you've been there 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours in the dock. According to your company's policies, starting time for detention, okay? The layover pay, again, one more time, is when you arrived on site and you get turned away from the security shack and you have to lay over a day or two. You want to make sure your company offers that. You got to have that. I know that this is our livelihoods. This is our driving the trucks out here are our livelihoods. They are, straight up. And, detention and layover pay is very important. Some people, I don't even want to put down, it ain't worth it. Well, it is worth it. It actually is. Usually, you write down the detention start and end times, whether it's 4, 5, 6, 8 hours, 13 hours of detentions in some cases. It's happened, 13 hours. You ever been to the Kraft company up in Canada? 13 hours of detention pay, that's a lot added up. Especially when you'll get the load pay plus the detention pay, and especially if you've been turned away or you're allowed to be near the company though, and you've still been turned away, you will get layover pay also, but you have to have it confirmed for layover pay. It ranges from $150 to $300. Okay. The company I'm with, they don't hesitate to make sure that layover pay is added to the loaded pay and detention pay. They got three items. The loaded pay, obviously, deadhead, if you're getting paid at the full loaded miles, all miles, your detention pay and your layover pay. It all adds up. You got to pay attention to these things. And make sure the private owner you're driving for has a fair percentage cut where you can get paid. I know it's the owner's truck, but you're giving your time, equally. He's providing the truck, you're providing the labor, you're driving the truck. So you need to make sure of that. Detention labor pay is essential. And it happens. You could drive 1,600 miles on a load. You go down to Laredo, Texas, and it's like, oh man, we're not gonna unload you, man, until Monday. You're here Friday, and it can happen to teams too. That's why you got to remember layover pay and add that on there. A lot of people don't, man. They don't think it's worth it, but it is. All right. This is just an Expedite tip or reminder about layover pay and detention pay. Try to remember, newcomers. Try to remember those two things. It'll help you out tremendously, especially if you have to sit on a load. All right? This is Danny of Expediting Land. Signing off. See ya!